Thank you so much. My name is Lord Leigh of Hurley, and I am, as you quite rightly say, by background a chartered accountant. I served on the Institute of Chartered Accountants Council for many years, and I started their corporate finance faculty as chartered accountants began to enter into the world of mergers and acquisitions. I started the investment bank Cavendish Corporate Finance, which specializes in selling UK businesses to overseas buyers, which might be of interest to some of you folk. We've recently merged with FinCap, which is the largest nomad advisor on AIM. I have served as the treasurer of the Conservative Party for some 20 years.
Yes.
And David Cameron was good enough to say to Her Majesty that I was elevated to the peerage some 7 odd years ago. So I've been a member of the House of Lords for 7 years. And I speak mainly on matters relating to business, finance, and tax. And most recently, I've been very heavily involved in the National Security and Investment Bill, which might be very relevant to you because it deals with the restrictions that will be placed on tech companies selling out to overseas investors and purchasers. Following certain concerns that the UK government had about overseas investors buying UK tech, this bill has been put on the statute books very, very quickly and needs some thought before you invest in tech companies in the UK. But in other respects, I'm like you, a regular businessman. The House of Lords is not a full-time occupation. It's something people do as well as their other business activities. And so I managed to combine my professional career with my legislative duties. But unlike Mr. Lowe, I'm sorry to say I've never had the pleasure of meeting a Miss England whilst on my business duties or professional duties. So I can only aspire to that. Well done, him.
Uday, may I add one thing that Lord Leigh and I worked on very recently, which was we were writing to the Chancellor, and we have an Indian Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, and we made a request on behalf of UK businesses not to increase capital gains tax. And the Chancellor agreed on the budget on the 3rd of March that capital gains tax would not increase. And I think this is a great incentive for companies looking to be based either based in the UK because it affects their exit value considerably. So this is something that Lord Leigh and I worked on together, which I think is just worth a mention today. Do we have Uday? Lord Leigh, may I ask you just to talk a little bit more about some of the work that you've been doing recently on some of the acquisitions and exits?
Thank you. Well, I think we were going to have a formal Q&A, but I'm very happy just to talk a little bit about what's going on in the market. To everyone's surprise, the UK M&A market has really been extremely active in the last year. There are a multitude of reasons for that. One was, as Shalini hinted, there was a concern that tax rates would go up in the UK for owners of businesses, and then that would be increased to income rates, which meant that owners of businesses wanted to sell receptive to offers. That risk has temporarily subsided, but may well come back. And as you may have seen just today, President Joe Biden announced that the USA are looking at increasing capital gains tax on top income, capital gains tax rates to top income tax rates. That will have a risk, and it's possible that other countries will think to do the same. So I suspect the level of M&A activity will continue. It means that in the UK, there are willing sellers of businesses. You should be aware that when you're seeking to buy into the UK, you'll be faced by stiff competition from the private equity community, which is very advanced and very sophisticated in the UK and is there to make acquisitions. It's also extremely liquid. It has a lot of powder, dry powder, ready to burn. But nonetheless, in my experience, UK buyers are very keen to sell to overseas trade buyers. They like the idea of an overseas buyer coming to buy their business. They like it because it's not competitive, there's reduced risk of confidentiality, and in their perception, there's a belief that an overseas trade buyer will pay a premium to come into the UK, And lastly, unlike a private equity buyer, an overseas trade buyer will seek to keep all the employees in their business, keep the brand name, keep the status quo. So overseas buyers such as Indian buyers are very welcome. And of course, as others have said, there's a great cultural connection between the UK and India with its very sophisticated accountancy advisory network can offer the proper acquisition because they understand how to buy businesses, they understand how to finance businesses, they understand the So I would have thought the Indian accountancy profession is well placed to help clients seek to invest.
So on that front, Lord Leigh, one quick question. Means you mentioned about UK companies happy to sell. So in terms of valuation, I know it's a bit technical. Means how does the valuation in the UK compare with companies when they sell in the US? Are sort of valuations a bit lower in the UK compared to the US?
Very interesting question. There's not a huge difference, but there is some difference. Actually, it's difficult to tell because in recent times, valuations have been very difficult to determine, particularly tech companies. For us old-fashioned accountants, we thought maybe a multiple of 7 on profits or 8 on profits or even 10 was a good deal. But one often sees companies at the moment where they're achieving 2 or 3 times revenue, which is and more. So they can go out of the window. But generally speaking, UK companies are actually slightly more expensive than US companies, mainly to do with the ability for goodwill write-off and also the ability to finance transactions. Not much in it. But there is a strong culture in the UK and the US of seeking to sell a business seen as a sign of success rather than a sign of failure. And there is much more activity in the M&A markets in the UK than there is in any other country in Europe.
And that's very interesting. The point sort of which we had sort of quickly discussed. India, both Indian investments, businesses, as they are growing, and as they are coming to from MSME, micro, small and medium, they're coming to the medium segment. They have the firepower to come and expand. So that will be music to a lot of people hearing this call that UK companies are ready to sell, what's called a change of control. I think the other interesting point also, can you comment a bit about, with your experience and with FinCap being part of, leader in the AIM market, where do you see the company opportunity for Indian companies? Because a lot of these will be family held companies to sort of get a bit of liquidity on the AIM market. So, Lord Leigh, if you want to make some comments on that.
Well, I have to be honest, the track record and history of Indian companies on AIM is not great. It hasn't been a great success. There's historic reasons for that. There's a lot of business in the UK to keep AIM busy. So I will be absolutely honest. I would suggest that people allow other companies to take the lead and allow for a few other companies to be successful before seeking to raise funds on AIM. There are, however, lots of other sources of liquidity in the UK. It's a very sophisticated financial services industry. And to the extent that if you are an Indian company seeking to make an acquisition in the UK, or indeed any other country of the world, one of the most important things you must do is finance that acquisition in the local currency to avoid exposure of currency movement. So you would want to get as much debt as you possibly could into an acquisition in the UK from local sources. And generally speaking, now is a good time to do that. Generally speaking, the banks are looking for business. And there is a huge range in the number of institutions offering debt for acquisitions in London at the moment, particularly London. There used to be only 4 banks in the UK, and 3 of them would probably say no, so you were stuck. Now there are literally dozens of organisations that have set up recently, including some run by some very successful British Indian entrepreneurs who are keen to lend money for such acquisitions. So the debt isn't the problem. The equity will be a little harder, and that probably has to be provided by those Indian entrepreneurial companies.
If I could add to what Lord Leigh said there, I mean, this week in the UK, it's FinTech Week. And there's been a huge celebration of the fact that London and the UK is becoming much more of the fintech capital of the world. And if we look at banks like Oak North Bank, for example, Rishi Khosala's bank, they are actively lending to the right businesses. So I entirely agree with what Lord Leigh is saying, is that you may not see the family businesses, you won't see family businesses on AIM or IPO. However, in terms of the debt financing, let's take a company like VT Rice. VT Rice is one of the largest rice businesses in the world, based in the UK. What they're focusing on is increasing their own brand. But lending to those sorts of businesses is very possible, and banks are very keen to provide money to those businesses. So we see less, as Lord Leigh is saying, in terms of the AIM and IPO markets with family-owned businesses. And I think there's a differentiation between family-owned businesses and Indian businesses. It's the family-owned businesses that we don't see as much as in terms of public listings. However, there's a lot of great Indian entrepreneurs who are using these schemes. The other good thing that I think we need to talk about here is the SEIS and EIS schemes, the Seed Enterprise and Enterprise Investment Schemes. These are pretty much very strong ways that the government is encouraging investors to support businesses, irrespective of sort of their background. But what they need to do is have that accreditation, which allows investors either 30% tax back or 50% tax back. And for the EIS investments, the enterprise investment schemes, companies here can raise up to £10 million, allowing investors to get a 30% back on the money that they put in. So I think those things are also worth consideration when we're looking at acquisitions and how businesses are growing here.
That's very helpful. So just for the audience, EIS, so these EIS schemes offer a 30% tax shield. So you can offset it against your current income, and that lowers your overall tax bill in the UK. So I just want to pose to both you and Lord Leigh another question. See, one of the other interesting dynamics which is happening is, in the last few years under the Modi government, India has come up with this liberalized remittance scheme. A significant amount of money is moving out of the country. And if I look at the last, and these are all RBI numbers, if you look at the last couple of years, nearly about $1 billion is coming out of India every year. And which basically, and the scheme is basically every resident Indian, provided there are certain criteria, you can send $250,000 out every year for certain criteria as investments, definitely for investments into any part of the world. I would assume in the living bridge of India and UK should be looking to how to attract that pot of money so that the funds can be parked here. So the question to both you and Lord Leigh is, what kind of things should, let us say, amongst the members who are hearing this call today, and they have businesses, they have $1 million cash extra to sort of send, and they want to move their money out of the country for investment. What can UK offer in terms of what are the kind of, as a home for that money? And I think that people like to follow others. What you call is follow the herd concept when money moves. And $15 billion, about $12 to $15 billion of new money coming out of every year out of the country is a big amount. Yeah. So both love to hear your comments and Lord Leigh's comment on that.
Sure. Lord Leigh, do you want to take it first?
Sure. Well, we recognise that Indian entrepreneurs have the choice of any country in the world to invest in. So they need to know why UK. And it's worth commenting that the UK is ranked as the 6th easiest place to do business in the world. As it happens, India is ranked 62, but India is on a sharp rise up. UK is stable. And why is the UK ranked as the 6th easiest country in the world to do business? Well, we have a flexible labour market. It's easy both to hire and fire people. Most importantly, we have a world-class recognised rule of law. So you can take comfort in safety knowing the rule of law is secure. We have incredible skills, expertise, and these are clustered. So we have clusters of skills, for example, of the aerospace industry in the Midlands, and the automobile industry in the Thames Valley, and so on. We have political stability, we have currency stability, we have an incredibly sophisticated financial services industry there to assist companies growing. We have relatively low corporate taxes, we have considerable research and development tax breaks, and becoming easier and easier planning laws to allow for development of businesses. So those are the sort of the hard reasons. The soft reasons is that the Indian community has a fantastic track record of doing business in the UK, of being welcomed, of being successful, and that means that if an Indian entrepreneur comes to the UK, he will find a wraparound, or she will find a wraparound of business supporters to help them on the journey. And there are many businesses that are sympathetic with Indian businesses, so there could be a natural bolt-on or acquisition for Indian entrepreneurs that will make sense.
Thank you. Shalini, please go ahead.
Yeah, Lord Leigh, I absolutely agree with everything Lord Leigh has just said. What I would add to that as well is I think within the UK, there are a lot of different networks, whether it's my organization, E2E Exchange, we've got 24,000 members. There's the IOD, there's the British Chamber of Commerce, there's the Confederation of Business and Industry. And it's quite easy these days to be able to join these networks and actually understand how the how the land lies, what are the businesses out there. And if you're looking to invest in either startups or scale-ups or even in a larger corporates through these networks, it's easy to make introductions. And I think it's a funny thing to say, but the fact that we're now all much more digital, like we're meeting for the first time, we've never met in person again, we're only meeting online. These technologies and the way we're doing business today makes it a lot easier to do your due diligence in terms of understanding the market and building your networks and building your connections. So I agree with Lord Leigh that we are the 6th easiest place in the world to do business. And I would say that that's really because it is possible to build your networks here. And, you know, working with Loka, working with yourselves, we can make a lot of introductions for those people who want to explore investing in private companies. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. No, see, I think means I'm thinking of a scenario of a person, let us say in a small town like Coimbatore, have a business which does $10 million. He has $2 million to spend. And I think we need to sort of connect all these networks up. So let's post this call. Let's start thinking together what kind of action plan we can put in with the Institute, with Loka, with the other small industry association who've been part of this get together today, along with your support, your E2E, with Lord Leigh's guidance and all what we can do. So Shalini, one quick question to you. You started by saying, you know, you do a Dealmaker for the UK government. Let us say some smart companies are hearing about this in India, what you do, what the UK government does. Can you give an example how you can help them and how they can sort of avail of a benefit of getting an innovation grant in the UK?
Certainly, yes. So essentially what happens is that, let's say if they contact me, I can work with them as their deal maker for the UK government. And everything that they need, from where to be settled in the UK, to the bank account systems, to the visa support, to all the logistical support and introductions to corporate clients and small businesses, that is done via us as deal makers. We're funded by the government, so there is no cost to the Indian company who wants to explore setting up their headquarters here. Our criteria is, in terms of the deal maker role, is that they need to be potentially high growth tech businesses. You can be a small business, but with the ambition to be high growth and tech enabled. Outside of the deal maker role, I do something similar through E2E, where even if you're not looking to set up in the UK, but you want to increase your client base and you want to increase your exposure, that is part of what we do within my team at E2E. So that hopefully that answers your question then.
That does. Lord Leigh, anything you want to add, Lord Leigh?
Yes, I mean, obviously having a personal connection and an individual to help you through the maze is extremely valuable. And Shalini is a perfect example of that. I would, in the meantime, encourage people to go to www.great.gov.uk, which is surprisingly for a government, is a fantastic website. It really does answer lots of questions that you might have about investing in the UK, and it is impressive. So www.great.gov.uk.
That's fantastic. Go ahead, Shalini.
Can I add my website address as well? If you wanted to email me, it's Shalini at the word exchange.com, but it's www.e2exchange.com.
We will put both of these website addresses on the ICMA website post this, because we will put some of the presentations up on our website. So these will definitely be there. So any last words, Shalini, any last words, Lord Leigh?
The UK and India share a culture of the love of entrepreneurs and respect for entrepreneurs. So any entrepreneur coming to the UK will be greeted with a can-do, how can we help attitude. And I'd encourage anyone who's minded to invest in the UK or have joint ventures or partnerships with British businesses to investigate it, because you'll be very welcome.